What's happening here? Why is there two people on the screen? Hmm. Hi. So this is an extra special episode of my awakening in the Black community. Let's just say I got a download about another take, which would be, what do you do when your friend is going through a spiritual awakening and they're going in a direction that is completely different from your own spiritual practice? So I'm so honored and fortunate. Hold on, look, here's his book. Hold on, I'll make sure. Makeup hands? No, makeup hands, makeup hands. Yes. Business 101, the fundamentals of success author, the acclaimed Andre Nathan Heyward, very dear friend and colleague. We're hanging out, and I asked him, if he would like indulge me in conversation about what that's like, because, you know, especially since he met me just pre-awakening. So, Andre, thanks for coming over. He brought me chicken. Yay!
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Introduce yourself to the humans that will be listening.
Well, I think you hit all the highlights. My name is André Heyward. As you mentioned, I'm author of Business 101. I also have a little bit of a YouTube channel I'm playing around with called Better You Life Coaching. That is BETTER space U Life Coaching, where we talk about different subjects, mainly centered around topics such as fiscal, emotional, and relationship.
Nice. So he's such a practically grounded individual. So I'm going to start this the way I start my other ones. And can you just share your spiritual / religious upbringing and kind of where you are now?
Ooh, okay.
Let's get in it. Yes.
So that's kind of a tale of two stories. Because I was raised in the church very heavily, but I was also raised in both sides of my parents' churches. So my mother went to the same church that my grandfather was one of the founders of, Blunt Chapel CME Church. That's Christian Methodist Episcopal. It's one of the historically African American or Black denominations, and that is located in the great, lovely city of Varnville, South Carolina, Hampton County. And my father is Pentecostal, St. Stephen's Church, and my religious upbringing is kind of between those. Over the years, I would say that as I've learned more, I've really kind of expanded my understanding of I would say Christianity and religion in general. And for me, I feel that a particular orthodox doesn't fully encapsulate my faith. And just as I've learned more, it's been certain belief clashes that I've had to reconcile. And at the end of the day, I guess the best way for me to put it is I believe in God. I have a relationship. My relationship is, I guess you would say, conceptualized through a Christian framework, but not bound.
So I'm listening to you, and I just realized something.
Mhm.
Often we talk about a spiritual awakening in the terms of someone going to maybe a traditional practice, but technically what you described was a spiritual awakening.
Yes, I would say it can be characterized as that.
Huh, interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was a happy little surprise. Okay,
We've
so
had these conversations.
yeah, but I don't think until just now listening to you talk about it that way, I realized that technically you had a spiritual awakening. So like sitting here in this moment, it's like, that's a spiritual awakening. That's exactly what that is. Wow. So like I totally didn't think of it in that way. So because we were only like just touching the surface of getting to know each other before my awakening began, and I think you only really became fully aware of it probably the day you brought the vacuum cleaner over. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
So I'm gonna tell the vacuum cleaner story, part of it, and only part. You only get part. So, but it's important because it was such a cool thing, and I want you to be able to expound on it. So I needed a vacuum cleaner. I got tile floors, only one room.
Hold on, wait.
Don't do this.
Wait. No. I cannot allow you to cap like this for these people. They need to know. First of all, I want to let all of y'all know we are in a room right now with vaulted 33 and a half foot hot seats. She has a combo house. There's a main house, there's a other house, and there's a other house. That's where she put the guests that she don't read.
Wow.
Just so that people can properly
So where's my
conceptualize
carpet
the
at?
grandeur.
Where's my carpet at?
I don't know. I have to keep a ball of yarn when I walk through.
Shut up. Okay, so the carpet is in the enclosed in garage area,
Got the name of the room.
the playroom. And so I needed to, vacuum it up when I first moved in, but I didn't have a vacuum. And to be honest, I didn't see the point of having a vacuum when I would have. So I asked. Wasn't asking him. I just mentioned it in passing. And Andre, being the kind of person he is, he offered to let me use his vacuum cleaner. So I'm like, oh, okay. So, and I had to repay him because he helped me move on his birthday, and I didn't know it was his birthday. So, fast forward, I'm getting dressed because I had been working all day, and I felt like I smelled like I sat in my clothes all day. So I get dressed, and this is important. This is important information. So I was wearing a white top and a red skirt. This is an important fact. So he comes over, vacuum, whatever, and I'm giving him the tour. So in my house, I actually have, I guess technically you would call it a shrine, because it is my altar. So all of my altars, my ancestral altar, the altars from my Orisha are all in this one room. So I show him the room. And I'll be honest, technically I was testing. I was trying to see if he was gonna wig out. I'll be real honest, I was technically testing him. And when I said, you go in there, make sure you speak to my ancestors. And he did. And I was like, okay, all righty then. In the course of chatting, we ended up talking about the fact that I did tarot and some other stuff. And I said, they mentioned that it was on a Friday. And I said I was wearing Shango's colors. To which he replied, you know about the Orisha? And I was like, in my head, like, you know about the Orisha? I was like, wait, pause, hold on a minute. Don't question me, you in my house. Like, wait a minute. So, and I think even that night I was talking about astrology, and I was just like, I was really curious about his birth chart. And what was dope was I was curious about it, and he said, well, he had to get his birth time. I just thought he was talking, just thought he was talking. I had to gift it. I gave him some crown for a gift. Just thought he was like, talking. I gave yes, let me put some respect on it. I gave him some crown as a gift. And so I thought, talking. And sure enough, the next day he had his birth time for me. Yes. So, Andre, when you come over and I show you my shrine, what is that first thought? Was there a first thought? Like, what is that? What's that experience like?
I feel like it was one of those things where it wasn't too dissimilar from some things I've encountered through researching in the past, like I've had the experience to come into contact with a lot of different peoples of different faiths and ethnicities, and even though it gets a bad rap here, especially in the southern United States, like people that don't understand voodoo, for instance. While practice is not anything I engage in, and it isn't my belief structure, it's much more than how it gets characterized. It gets demeaned as just simple witchcraft, and it's not at all. And at first, when I kind of saw that room, it wasn't quite the same, but that was kind of my mind went. Almost like some similar things in folks who practice.
Okay. When having your Christian background and then having a friend who is like, yo, I read tarot cards and I'm into astrology and yo, this full moon is happening on this day. Like, what is there a reconciliation process for you to be?
This is the thing, like when it comes to tarot, when it comes to astrology, like I personally don't subscribe to it. I think it's, for me, the way I view it is like, interesting little thing, but I don't, uh, trying to find a way. Like,
It's not your bag.
not that it's not my bag. It's just the gravity that I place on it isn't. I don't feel it really pertains.
Okay.
So like, if somebody's like, hey, oh, you're a Libra, such and such is going to happen, blah blah blah, because of this, and it's like, I'll probably listen to it, but it's not anything I'm going to internalize and walk around my day and meditate on. It's just one of those things, kind of like reading the horoscope in the newspaper. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to get money today. All right, cool. That's how I look at it, and I feel like when it comes to religious practices, everybody has to find uh, their particular walk, because just to be frank, even though I have a Christian belief and framework, um, if I were to sit down and talk in depth with some folks, well, not if I were, like some folks would say, I'm like, oh, you have some heretical beliefs. And, just because I don't have the same interpretation as the next person, or they don't have the same interpretations or reach the same conclusions after reading the same thing as I, doesn't make their beliefs any less valid.
Right.
Because we all have to find what it is for us that's
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling, because while I don't necessarily subscribe to the faith, the basic premise of it, I do, which is Baha'ism, which and this is probably, if anybody is a Baha'i that's watching, probably about to kind of butcher this a little bit.
Well, I have to apologize
Uh,
on behalf of my friend here.
Extreme Cliff Notes version of it, they believe that every monotheistic faith, in particular the Abrahamic faiths, are basically of the same God, where Zoroastrianism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, it's actually monotheistic if you research it, so on and so forth. They're actually coming from the same source. And I do, in essence, believe that there's something to it. There's a striking similarity after you strip away some of the pedantic trappings of certain things and certain laws, where there's certain through lines of commonality, which I see something rather, if I'm being honest, I see something rather remarkable and rather similar for things that are supposed to be separated and isolated by so much distance, geography, and time in certain cases. I think that there's more than one way to worship God.
Yeah.
And just because one person's conclusion that they reach and that's the right way to worship them is what works for them doesn't mean that everybody else that doesn't agree with that way is a heretic or they're innately wrong or anything like that. Everybody's religious walk is something that I feel is deeply personal. And honestly, frankly, I feel unless somebody gets to the point where they have a heaven or hell to put somebody in, it's really not any of their business.
One thing I've found really interesting, and let me just qualify this, is Andre is one of 3 of my pseudo boyfriends. Yes, I said pseudo, they're not really my boyfriend. But he's one of 3 because I'm a baller. And
Oh, sure.
he's number 3. And that's why he's number 3.
Sure.
Because he doesn't want to share. That's why he's number 3. He's number 3. No, the 3 is not the last. You're new. You're the new guy.
The first shall be last, and last shall be first.
So I wanted to do this because so many people say they go through a spiritual awakening and lose their friends because they're like, oh, they're devil worshipers and things like that. They're not even willing to have a conversation. They're not even willing. And what I found interesting is that I haven't had that experience. In the all honesty, I've had one out. Even my ex-husband, technically, he can't fall away. We got kids. But I've only actually had one friend fall away since my awakening. Like that I consider like somebody I hang out with as a friend. Not anybody else. And in my friend group, there's only one who has a similar practice. That's it. All my other people who are in my life have a Christian framework or roots. And I don't even have Christian roots. Like I don't have Christian roots at all. So having 3 friends that say, yeah, we see you and it's cool. They all come over, and if they go near that room, they speak to my ancestors. And Andre in particular is hilarious because he is like actually like gone and like spoke. Like he doesn't just walk in the room and speak. He like, goes to them and speaks. And that means a lot to me because it's a respect of me in a way where it's like, this is your thing and I'm gonna give respect because I'm in your home. And so I want to say that one, thank you, because it is appreciated. It's appreciated. What are your, I know that you don't do ancestral veneration, but what for you, for people that, like, what do you think about ancestral veneration? Just from your outside in perspective.
Well, I would say one, I feel that a lot of us do it. Just not necessarily in a particularly formalized framework. Just for me in particular, like and granted, this is one of the few beliefs which I have no scriptural basis for coming from, but I do believe that like my grandfathers who have gone over to the other side, I do believe that they're looking over me. Frankly, if I can speak, can I speak bluntly?
Mm-hmm. It's my show. Go ahead, speak to me.
So I did a lot of dumbass shit as a kid. And I've been in a lot of situations in which it was nothing but the hands of God looking out for me. And I can think of two or three times right now off the top of my head where I probably shouldn't be here. And there are times where I like to think that one, the lessons and the memories and the things that they left behind is with me every day. A lot of times when I'm thinking about certain things, like even in that book, some of the lessons is things from my grandfather, and I'll be upset and I'll be thinking about something like, oh no, they coming at me crazy, blah blah blah. And every now and then they'll be like, yo, go read your book, or go look at it. I flip to the title, and it's like, damn, done by my own words. Like, I handled that all the way wrong. And it's like, yeah, grandparents. It is like, so when you know better, you do better. So you have to approach the situation. Sometimes that involves correcting yourself and correcting yourself when you've been wrong with others. So especially, and I would say this, especially in the South, we may not necessarily fight with that, but nearly everybody that I know of has a close family member that if they've passed on, they speak of them with a particular reverence and veneration, where it may not be something formal in the framework where you do it, where
like having an altar, like, or having something they actually call an altar.
Yeah, it's some people frequently visit that grave site. They leave flowers, they leave certain things behind, and that is ancestral veneration in my regard. Now, the way you do it is kind of sad.
What do you mean?
First of all, I think it was one day you had them like a Popeyes biscuit.
First off,
chicken, but you ain't had them no drink. They gonna choke.
This fall,
they gonna choke. That biscuit too dry.
First off, there's a bottle of Coke on my altar. There's like water on my altar. Nobody's going. It's not going to be. Not okay.
You say they're not supposed to drink the water though. That's close.
The water is going down. They're clearly drinking it. The water's going down. Okay. Oh my God. The water's going down. Like it's not at the top. The water is not at the top. Oh my God. And let me just say how much I appreciated that explanation, because I often say, especially in the Black community, we may not be, I would proactively apologize if I slip away for a moment. I just feel myself slipping. And it always happens in his presence. Whether he knows it or not, I'm always sliding away. But I always say, like, Black people have been, to your point, doing ancestral veneration, because when your homies pass on, what do? You pour one out for your homies. That is pouring libations. Pouring libations is literally pouring the liquid out for whomever.
You don't give them.
My ancestors don't need a chaser. That rum, whatever is on there, they don't need a chaser. They got the water, they got that. If that's what they call for. Right now it's coffee. It's coffee on there right now. It's coffee.
You know what coffee is for, right? That's for a hangover. You know, got them.
Shut up.
You know, got them hungover. You needed that chaser.
No, my granny's birthday is Sunday, so she got Dunkin' Donuts. I had to make sure I get donuts.
Okay. That's better than biscuit.
Shut up! I did not give them a Popeye's biscuit. No, that is not what happened. I didn't know this. I didn't know. It's like you pour libations. I can guarantee somebody's got a family member with a fireplace mantle with a bunch of pictures of people who've long since gone. You probably even got flowers up there. Go ahead and put some water in the can up there. Just go ahead and finish it off. It's not taking the place of God. Like, I commune with the Creator. When I say my prayers in the morning, the first thing that I do is give all praise to the Most High Creator. That's the first, that's how I open my day, is all praise. And what I do is I give thanks that in God's divine wisdom, that I don't have to do this alone. And just like grandma would be praying, or your grandfather praying for you in life, they're still praying. The analogy I gave somebody was like, grandma, grandpa, whoever was here praying, trying to sit it, if you believe up there, it's a whole other conversation. But now they're in the same building. They're in the same building. Now they can go, hey, God, hi, you remember me? Yeah, my baby Andre's trying to get this job. Yeah, and he left me a hole on his altar, and I just was hoping that maybe you would let me whisper in somebody's ear on his behalf. Do you mind if I do that? Good, okay, no way back. So now, they're just closer to source and can, move a little different now that they're, right there with the prayer. Like, hey, I'm good. All right, bet. Clients.
Today is gonna be the day.
Baby, don't tell the clients that they slow. That's not nice. That's gonna help you keep your job. You don't tell the client that they need to. This is no longer a technical issue. There's nothing you can do to help them. You got to go see about your intellect. You can't tell the client.
Well, man, maybe we have a cognitive disconnect on your end.
No, this is not what's happening.
I mean, that is nice and professional.
No, that is not. That is not how we do this. Not. Oh my God. Okay, so as my friend, have you received a tarot reading from me?
I remember you did one when you first started. And I will say this, I want to say this too before we move on to the next one. If I could get one in.
Maybe.
So it kind of tying in and kind of to wrap up the last point. I'll say this. In African tradition, I know we kind of think of the continent as some faraway land and the way they do things is being completely different. And to some degree, like there is differences, no doubt. But kind of how you have your beliefs laid on top of one another through, I guess, would it be fair to say through a Jewish framework?
Hebrew makes me feel better.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hebrew. I don't hurt me.
That's the Jewish terror.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All respect. No, I got you.
I don't have to sugarcoat it for people anymore about the kids. I'm Israelite, yeah.
Okay, got you. That's really kind of how it is in the continent, and that's how come. One, when I saw your shrine for the first time, it didn't really shock or surprise me, knowing from some of the previous conversations that we had. But my point is that we as Black Americans, a lot of times, although it looks slightly different with how we were just saying with certain customs and practices, it's in essence a lot of the same things. We just have different, we've just ritualized it different, I guess.
Yeah.
You want to say so?
Yeah, because you've probably, like some people, depending on where you're at in the South, you probably got that one grandma that's got horseshoe over the door. That's a hoodoo practice, in case you didn't know. That is a hoodoo practice to have the horseshoe over the door for luck. Or depending on which way you have it turned, what you're trying to invoke in, that's a hoodoo practice. And hoodoo is an amalgamage, potpourri of practices. It's the different various tribes, because not every part of ATR, but African traditional religions, not everyone's Ifa or Odisha based. Some are Voodoo, similar energies, different names. Palo Mayombe, things like that. And then we had the Native Americans. So we're all slaves hanging out together. Like, how can we hide this? So like Santeria, where they syncretized the Odisha. So I wish I could remember her name, but like Mother Mary, the candles, Mother Mary candles are for Yemoja. There's one saint, oh my God, saint something, but it's a woman that is Shango. And so that's how they hid and protected themselves. But a lot of that, depending on how they passed on, because you think in African traditions are verbal traditions. So it's like, hey, we still do this thing like my mother.
I'm sorry.
You get them. Go ahead.
Yeah, even with that, that's still, I can't speak for other parts of America, but I can speak for the South. That is still alive and well. There, I can think of in every single family, because it seems like I always ran into this person when I was trying to date somebody's daughter. There's that one, maybe two people in the family. They know your entire family history. They know the history of the family friends. They can tell you your lineage going back 7, 8 generations, and they can say it perfectly. And a lot of times they tell you your family, and they ask you, all right, so such and such, blah blah blah. Blah. Oh, okay. You know them? Nah, I can't say it. But they your second cousin. How you don't know? You show you was such and such.
I wish I could have that experience. For me, I grew up in the South, but my mother is technically Southern because she's from North Carolina, but my dad's from New York. So my extended family, by and large, wasn't here. It was just us. So a lot of the Southern staples and traditions were like having that elder that's there to like verbally, pass on that knowledge. I didn't really have that. My grandmother, Sissy, she passed when I was in 5th grade. And then my dad's parents didn't get here until I was a teenager. By then I was willful and I was trying to be out in the streets. So, when he was like, hey, you see grandma house and do that. No. I'm trying to go be at sweetheart house. I was fortunate that they liked me, so he would come with me sometime. But I was trying to be someplace else. And now, I have those moments where I wish I had been able to sit, because I know when I was little, I was looking for that. I was always at somebody's house with some old lady sitting and listening to her tell stories about her family. Because
and I'll say this too, for me, and this really hit home with some of the recent folks left in my family. Like, I don't necessarily take tomorrow for granted in terms of getting those things from your loved ones, because it's easy to say like, oh well, I'll talk to them and I'll be able to see them next time I'm home, or next time I go around. And sometimes there isn't a next time, and once they go, um, if you're lucky, they told somebody certain things. But there are a lot of things that I wish I could ask, like even just my grandfather. Like I would kill for 5 minutes just to pull him down from heaven and be like, yo, I need to know these few things here. And it's one of those things where, in particular with family history and lineage, especially as Black folks, where if we're lucky, a lot of us may be able to trace our lineage back to that family member who came off the boat. If not, we might be talking getting back to the Great Depression era, or just before that. So it's important to know who you are and where you came from. And even if it's not the furthest back, to know something is better than nothing.
yes.
And, to make sure you have those conversations. Because sometimes, sometimes there's a solace that can be taken for granted. Because for the most part, my family, like we knew those things. But talking to some of my peers in college and in high school at certain points who didn't have an idea of what their lineage was or anything like that, that couldn't go beyond grandma or grandpa, but not like there was that deep longing to kind of know, like, where do I belong? Where do I come from? So always make sure that you're getting that information and be able to pass that on to your children.
Indeed. It's why like so many people, you know, from like a spiritual perspective, it's like you'll talk to one person and they may have this one story about their practice, and you'll talk to someone who's technically has the same practice, but it's different, and that's because it's an oral tradition, and it's that's how it's handed down. So it's like the telephone game. Some things get the essence may still be the same, but little bits and pieces are not quite the same. So thank you for that, Andre. That was beautiful. Okay, so let's because I'm like all emotional or clipped. Um, uh, so you got a friend, she does tarot. This said friend has that said friend ever done a reading for you? And what was that like?
It
Like, was it weird or was it not weird?
it
It
was
was pretty cool. Like,
it wasn't weird. It was one of those things. It's like it's kind of neat. I mean, you know how I view tarot and everything. Like I don't feel it really pertains to me. But like I was saying with the horoscope, like it's one of those things. Like you hear something kind of cool, like hey, there's good fortune or whatever. You go $100 bill. Okay, cool. So that's
you gonna hold on to that fortune. You read your horoscope and it says, yo, you gonna find a G today. I'm gonna find a G today. Let me go ahead and secure this bag though. Like, where am I supposed to go? Does it tell you what a $1,000 is at?
hey, that's when you got to get on the line. Hey, hold on, hey, big ho, hey, hold on. Hey, come right. It's like did you? One stack. I touched the paper, and we gonna agree. What you do? Yes, you will.
So this is going to be a good one. If you had to give advice to someone whose friend comes to them and says, this is what's going on, I'm having a spiritual awakening, and like for those who like no previous podcast episode, let's say this is the first one, you want to Andre people he comes, so you know why I asked. Like, I'm a medium, I like I don't know which person dropped the 6 cents in my hand. I'm a medium. I'm clairvoyant. So yes, I have visions, I have prophetic dreams. So your friends go senses to you and want to start ancestral veneration, especially if they decide to go to a traditional practice, like specifically for Black people. Your friend says this to you, you're not, you're like, either a Christian framework or something to that effect. What are some things you would say, what to say, what not to say, and what myths maybe have, if any, that maybe other people may have that I may have debunked by being my friend? I know that was a lot. Did you get all that?
I think I got you.
Okay, all right.
If I don't answer it, it's like
okay. You heard him say I can slap him. I just need you heard him say. So when my hand fly, he said I can
just use. That's how I do. I come over here and get ganged up on. But I would say to start with, if you have somebody, a friend or family member going through their own personal spiritual awakening, it starts to go a non-traditional route, I guess, be the best word. One, that person has to be comfortable with themselves. I feel like there's a particular zealotry that can come about sometimes when we are so fervently engrossed in our religious outlook, and we have no room for any type of deviation from anything that is our norm. Like I've seen it to where it is so tightly to one framework or another, to even where, just being honest, like Baptist, AME, CME, like damn, they're the same. Like it is very minuscule differences, but you have some people who uh, are from one denomination or another, where they will basically like, oh no, those people over there is heathens, and it's like, you know, and it's one of those things where you have to be open minded and also know what it is if you are uncomfortable that makes you uncomfortable. And I get that some people may not be in the position to have some of those conversations, but if a person really truly is, ask those questions. And the thing about it is, if that's your friend, if that's your family member, y'all probably got the rapport to the point where y'all can talk and say whatever to each other, respectfully, of course, but it's not something where, oh, I'm gonna trigger this person because I say something. Like they know you and you know them, and they know the things that you're ignorant of or may not be the most cognizant of, and vice versa. And I feel like with anybody who's really undergoing an awakening, um, you know, if somebody, I would say this, don't readily try to push or redirect or reshape the evolution of their belief structure in a direction that want them to go per se. But if somebody reaches out and they ask certain questions, that's when it's your full license to give your perspective. Um, and hey, look, this is what I believe, or this is how I feel on this particular thing, or this is how interpret this particular passage, or whatever it may be. And you just kind of have to, I feel that's the best framework to come from it. And I really encourage this talk. I really feel like not only with this, but just the world in general, if more people would truly talk and listen to one another instead of talking at each other, there'd be a lot less conflict and a lot more empathetic understanding in the world.
Mm, if okay, so we're gonna role play
Okay.
in a clean way.
Okay.
You find out I'm getting ready to have a spiritual awakening, or I'm having one, and I'm talking to you, but Arisha and all this good stuff. If you were to if you were not as enlightened as you are, what would be one question you feel like that you would ask me to help you understand where my thought process or belief or faith or whatever, what would you think that question would be?
Um, I think it would be like, can you explain like what's going on, or how'd you get here? I think that's the most common question a lot of times. And sometimes that's really the hardest one to answer.
Facts. That it's yeah. If someone was to ask me how did I get to this place, like I'd have to go back, like consciously aware that I was having an awakening, and when the awakening actually truly began are actually two different points. So I can tell you when I was consciously aware that it was happening, and I can tell you what in my life was happening at that time that made it so. Where I just and I did a video, actually an episode, and I said, the question, it started and trickled Like, I'm naturally curious. And someone posted that she was making moon water. And I said,
Moonshine?
she said moon water. And I was like, no, shut up. And I was like, yo, what's that? So she added me to a group, which introduced, well, it awoke my inner kid. I've always liked astrology as a kid. I liked numerology as a kid, but I had kind of, trauma, this, that, and the other thing. I forgot it. And so the group was like, yo, what's your sun, moon, and rising? I'm sorry, I'm more than just my sun. Yeah. And I'm an Aquarius. And I gotta go look. I gotta find it. I gotta go look for more information. And so that's how it started, was curiosity. But then stuff started to, in my life was going on. And so coupled with that, and when I sought out a mentor, which would be my encouragement to anyone who feels like they're going this gift, they can talk to someone. You don't have, contrary to what anyone says, you don't have to go at it alone. And like I say, like, not Andre specifically, my best friend, I was like, every time something would happen, I needed to sound the board. I needed someone to listen. Even if you couldn't give me an answer, I just needed to be able to say it out loud, like, this is what happened. And so she asked me, she was like, what do you want? And I said, I just want to feel like God doesn't hate me and that God's with me. And the best way I can describe the experience after hanging up the phone to her was like the universe said, dang, sis, we've been waiting on you. Let's go ahead and give you every single solitary spiritual gift that you were naturally born with and wake them all up now. Oh, wait, not one of them. No. Let's go ahead. You got it. You got it, homie. You got it. Go ahead. Wake up. Wake all the way up. And so that's how I started. But the question literally was, how do I connect with God again? And Mike asked me, how do I reconcile when I got ready to initiate into E5? He said, okay, this has now come from something you're exploring to now you're going to initiate as a priestess. And how did I reconcile that with being an Israelite? And I said, well, there's still only one creator. There's still only one source. And my uncle gave the best description. The creator is a diamond with a raw diamond, and you have all these little facets. And everyone is seeing these different little facets of the one creator. And so like the Orisha are not separate, they are different facets of the creator just existing out in Mother Nature. So there is still only one creator, but instead of me going through Passover's coming up, and I still observe Passover, but instead of it being a thing where I'm doing it because my parents told me to, like I observe Passover in honor of my family. So it's something I want to do. I keep Yom Kippur and fast because it's an honor, and fasting is good for your spirit. So it's something I want to do. It's no longer, I'm just going through the motions saying, I gotta do this thing, oh my God. Like, no, it's something I actually want to do as opposed to something I was told. That's the best way to describe it.
No, I see where you come from there. And honestly, fasting was one of the most, honestly, let me rephrase this. Fasting was the most important thing. I remember when he taught me a lot of things, and then there was one day, I was probably like maybe 12 or 13, I asked him something, and he was like, I ain't got the answer for that one. I was like, dude, you the smartest person I know. You talking about you got an answer, sweet? Get out of here with that cap. And we kind of sat down and got to talking and whatnot, and somehow the conversation got spiritual, and he was always like, it was like, as a man, there's a lot of things that's gonna fall on you. It's gonna be your responsibility. But I'm confident that you got the knowledge and the wherewithal to get through it. He said, but when you get to a certain point where you've done all you can and you absolutely have nothing else to see the way out, he's like, yeah, the way he phrased it was empty bellies get God's attention. And
that's something that I always kept with me. And honestly, in terms of my own spiritual journey, I remember it was I fasted for water and grape juice for 21 days. And that is really where the great pivot in my walk came. Going through it at a certain point in time, I felt like you kind of get to this point where it's like, okay, am I crazy? You know,
Like, did that just?
I was like, yeah, I've done 3 before. I've done, get up to day 17. Like, am I doing this? Is my brain shutting down?
Did you have in your fast a moment of like peak clarity?
It was, I feel like it's the entirety of the time was clarity. At the beginning of it, I won't go too into detail. I think so many would understand, but at the beginning of it, it started with the dream, and
The one you told me about?
mhm.
Okay.
And in that dream, there were 2 figures, and they gave you a commandment to write it all down, and they said I was going to meet something. And after that particular point in time, I started to not only meet people, dreams, and these dreams were not my conventional, hey, the movie's playing night dream. Like they followed a particular pattern, in which something was being disclosed, something was being unveiled to me, and then there was an attempt of interruption to come and either sow confusion or try to attack me. And because I knew who I was, it was kind of like you can come in here and you can throw your temperature and put my stuff on the wall, but you better not touch it. You know not to run this page right now. You know we're jumpy right here, right? You know we don't fight fair around here. What's about? And that, I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. And just kind of to give some more context to it. During this time and kind of the impetus for obviously college, and I felt like all was hard. Like I went from being engaged to going through getting ready for my senior year. Was about to be wrapping up the semester. Everything seemed like it was going great. I don't know how. It was like engagement got broken off. Classes just seemed like they flipped out of nowhere. Was employed. Well, thought I was employed, I guess. Showed up, didn't have a job. It was like, yo,
What is happening?
it was like hell, high water, kitchen sink, like everything. It's like, we was winning just a second ago.
Yes, that happens. It's like, yo, what?
Hold up. Who called time out? Why ain't get the message? And during that time, like especially after a certain point in time, I realized that, I kept trucking, kept going, and it's like, nah, none of this bothers me. I'm gonna keep doing what I always do. Like, granddaddy, pappy, and raised on soft dudes. Like, I'm gonna get it how I live out here. It was went home, went to my dorm room. It was just me, and it was really a breakdown. I was like, I said, God, if you be who you say you are, like, I'm breaking. And if you don't come get me, I don't know if I'm gonna be here. And that whole experience was him coming to get me. It was a whole lot to this. That's
Yeah.
we can talk.
But I think I like the fact that you shared that. And thank you for like, I know the full, but the fact that you shared as much as you did, thank you. There's so much similarity, and an awakening is an awakening. Where it leads you is personal, but an awakening still happens so similarly. Like the episode I did with my uncle, listening to him tell me how he's like going through something similar to you. And like, okay, I did all of this and it didn't work. So you know what? I'm about to go try this. And if this ain't what I meant to try, something else is gonna show up because I'm about to go all the way left. I'm gonna way, way left. I'm not gonna tell you what he said. You gotta listen because he said he left us. Like all the way left. And I was like, oh, because I didn't know. Like I didn't learn it until he told me on the podcast. But it was just, he was at this place. And then it was like, just come. And even like what I said, to give, that perspective at the time of my awakening, my marriage was falling to pieces. The foundation was wobbly at best. And it was just like, I'm in this depression, I'm on antidepressants, I have all this pain in my body, nobody knows what's wrong with me. And when I say I had endoscopies and MRIs and CAT scans, and they can find absolutely nothing. But if you do a blood test, there was inflammation in my body to the point you have a marker for inflammation that's just naturally there, and mine was twice normal. But nothing, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. They just knew I had inflammation, which was why I had pain. And it was simply my emotional state showing. From an esoteric perspective, you would say I was in the middle of my dark night of the soul. Which is really your dark night of your ego. Your ego is like fighting your higher being. Like, I don't want you to be this elevated version. Stay down here. Stay down here. Everybody's down here. You can't elevate. I need you to stay down here. And so there's a battle going on. And everything around you was reflecting your inner world. So I appreciate that you illustrated that in a really beautiful and pointed way. So thank you.
Okay. I got a question for you, though.
Oh, go ahead.
So one thing I've kind of noticed when speaking with you, and even friends and people I've just random folks I've met over the years who I don't know why a lot of people just seem to just walk up to me and share.
Oh, I know why that is, but anyway.
Offline. But it seems though, you used the term awakening. I've always kind of conceptualized it kind of like an excavation. But do you feel that if you didn't go through that heartbreak, that you could get to where you
Let me qualify this in a way, and I like the fact that you said an excavation. So can I dig into that a little bit and answer your question? Okay, all right, hold on.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so I want to talk about for people who like, what is this awakening term? Short Crib Notes version. You're wherever you define heaven, wherever you and the Most High, and you're in the office, and you're like, yo, I'm going to Earth. God's like, okay, well, what you gonna do? Step back out your little soul contract. Boom. There's a side effect when you get to Earth. The moment you leave your mom's body, I leave her body? Yes. What is that like? You'll find out. The moment you leave your mom's body, that's how I visualize that. You're gonna forget everything we just discussed. What? You're gonna forget that you're an aspect of me. You're gonna forget you have a spiritual team. You're gonna forget everything. Everything's clean slate. And that's part of your learning. You're going there, you're going to school, Earth is school, you're going to school. So you got to forget, but the journey is to remember. So you're not, a lot of people say, I don't find my path, find my purpose. You're not finding it, you're remembering it. And the awakening process is the part of you that's still connected to the creator, waking up and getting louder and saying, hey, 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 I'm here. I know what you're supposed to be doing. And trying to break through. So to his point, that excavation process is like, I'm here, and it's always there. Anytime you're like, oh my God, I got the overwhelming urge to like go such and such a place. And you get there, like, I don't know why I'm here. But you get there, something happens. That's your higher being, your intuition guiding you. So that's what that's how I visualize an awakening. I like excavation. Like, this has always been here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take that. So
I guess to borrow a line from Shrek.
then they be dropping gems. Like somebody at Pixar is having an awakening. In case you didn't know, there is somebody at Pixar having a spiritual awakening, and they are trying to bring the collective. Go ahead.
It's like an onion.
Yes, yes. That is a perfect example. Yes, go ahead. Go with the onion. Go.
And they're laid.
Yes.
And the reason I said excavation is what's at the center is always there.
Mm-hmm.
But in much the same way, when you get that onion from the store, like there's always like that brown or that old, that old leaf that you don't want that. You gotta peel that back.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it goes a little bit deeper. You gotta peel that back.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta peel sometimes when you get to the part where it's like, okay, I can cook this.
Yes.
That's kind of how I would conceptualize mine. And a lot of others is what's there, our truest form, our truest essence is always there.
Yes.
But through our life experiences, what happens is we end up wrapped and cloaked in so much, for lack of a better term, BS.
Yes.
That sometimes, like you said, that still quiet voice that's there shouting, basically we're throwing more dirt on top of it. And kind of to borrow another analogy from the fiasco's Cool, where the man was buried alive and he dug himself out of his grave into the surface, where he described it as a reverse buried treasure, where his treasure was light. And it's kind of that same process, because we have to break out of this shell of all of these life experiences. It might be past hurts, it might be certain traumas, it might be certain people's opinions and certain negative expectations that's been forced upon us, whatever it may be. And those things over time, if you don't have those practices in place to really truly commune and connect with the Most High, it's easy to get a lot of interference in there.
Yeah. And to your question about whether you feel like it wouldn't happen, your first awakening, I do believe, comes from that. I'm gonna shake you, like because you use dirt as an example. So the Lord says, okay. Or you know,
Don't shake the baby.
Hold on. Okay. So, okay, all right, cool. Got something else. Oh, goodness, great. Look at you all pretty and clean under there. Like, I feel like your first awakening is that way. As you journey, I can say for myself, I'm going in the midst of another awakening. However, the difference is I do not feel like, to use a tarot reference, I don't think I'm having a tower moment. So for my non-tarot colleague here, the tarot card represents radical, unexpected change. Like the tower just got struck by lightning. It's on fire. Everybody is leaping out of the tower to their death.
I'm familiar with the song.
Okay. And then, but followed behind the tarot is the star. The tower is the star. And the person on the star card is naked. They have their foot, they're kneeling at the water.
Bugging naked.
Yes, they're naked. Because they were at the tower and they lost all their clothes, but they're still alive. They're still alive.
Question for another day.
Okay, they're still alive.
No.
And
How
how they got out?
you get out but you lose all your clothes?
I don't know.
How much is that?
Well, you know what? Because I'll tell you, the full message of the tower card is still having hope and faith in God. And so you're vulnerable. And so being naked is the ultimate show of vulnerability. It's the open expression of who you are in the face of God, because God, he taking a Christian or Abrahamic view of the Bible. God didn't give us clothes. We did that shit. So to be in the star card and be naked and have this beautiful star that some would say looks like the Star of Bethlehem on the card. And then you have the foot on the land showing their connection to earth and the foot on the water showing their connection to spirit. They're still fully connected even outside everything else happening. And the star is shining on them. And so for me, my first awakening happened in a tower moment. And to Andre's point about, you don't know what's happening. For me, because it was building, the awakening was building, I saw the signs that I was ignoring. Like I had just started reading tarot and literally every other reading, move out. What? Move out your house. You and me, him and the kids? No. You and the kids. What? You and the kids move out. Wait, what do you mean? I don't understand. And I understood. I knew what the message was. Fear held me in place. Ego was like, you can't move out. What you and them kids gonna do? Where you gonna live? How you gonna get around? Ego had me stuck. And so God said, okay, you're not gonna listen. I'm trying to make this easy on you. You can go on your own. And we had like a full 10 commandments moment. So you can either let my people go or I'm gonna send a tower of fire. And for me, that's what it was. But now, because I have that relationship and that connection, and there's still things where I'm like, you sure? Huh? You sure? You sure this is what you want me to do? Okay. But I don't feel like the awakening is going to happen through trauma, because I'm calling in ease. I'm saying, you know what? Let me learn through joy. Let me learn through laughter. Let me learn through, goodness. I'm like, I've had enough trauma, and I've had lifetimes of trauma in this lifetime. I don't need anymore. So I feel like it depends on the person. Some people are, it's a lot of muck, and they got to be cracked open over and over again in order to awaken some more. But if you're constantly washing off the muck and pulling back the layers, putting on new clothes, when it happens, I don't think it always has to be where you hit the sledgehammer. It might be, hey, open that door right there. Did I answer your question?
Gotcha. Big fella. You call that drum?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. If you feel like the cracking happening, there might have been some stuff still on you.
I feel like I need to go to HR. Like I'm getting haze up here. Haze out here.
Tell them some reinforcements. Hey, can you send my reinforcements now?
We need to sit down and have a talk.
But if you feel like you're cracking open, my best suggestion is let go and allow yourself to flow.
I would say this. That part has been in relation to certain issues, been the most difficult thing for me. Even going back to when I was awakening, and started having certain dreams. I remember at a certain point, this is once I had started fasting. Basically, as I said, my ex-wife and I, we were off the engagement. And about 5 days before the conclusion of it, it was like, yeah, this date, she gonna will talk, And it was like, oh, and I'm glad to hear this. But this date, I was like, and then, but the vision didn't make any sense because like I was home and it was around family, and then this is the message. So I think something's not synced up. Like this song, I ain't getting this out of this. Hold up, wait. This date.
I said what I said.
And I remember going through that whole day. And I really, really at that point, because I had several other things, visions. Not all of them were for that time. Like I saw my son during that time.
Okay, how can you tell me about that?
And basically, I remember it got to the point where I haven't ate in however many days, like 20 days. Like, yeah, bro, you probably delirious, man. You might be about to die. You need to eat. And I was starting to like, yo, this is crazy. Why would you think this? And I remember because the time was 11:52, and this was the heaviest finger I ever felt. And I was about to like really just beat myself up. And it was just like,
okay. I wasn't expecting you to do that. You chose some water system where you just put your hand over it.
My bad. It did my phone wrong, and it was hurt. And like we got back, we had to talk that night, and we got back together that night. And the thing about that whole time though, the one place I really noticed, it wasn't an issue trusting God for certain things, but it was an issue trusting Him for others. And in particular, and even to this day, when I feel like somebody's wrong with me, I'm sorry, but like I'm real petty. He made me like that. Like I'm just saying, hey, they gotta catch his hands. You gotta run his face. I ain't saying it's a permanent grudge. It's just, hey, you gotta run his face first before we get cool again. But it's one of those things where after grappling with it and even having that conversation one day, it's like, why is it so difficult for you to trust me? It's like, cause you can be better to them than I could ever be. It's like, no, vengeance is mine. I was like, no, you too nice. And it's like, this is mine. So a lot of things, sometimes we get in our own way.
Yes.
And especially with things like that for myself, it's like, at the end of the day, you simply praying for them and saying, God, you know what? Hammer don't hurt them. Probably the best thing you can do versus holding whatever grudge or having whatever feelings and sentiments. So that's been, that part of letting go has been my biggest struggle. Just simply because like, even to this day, like it is so difficult. Like I let it go for 5 minutes. If I don't see nothing, like, yo, hold up, hey, come in, like, you could do something.
Can I say something? Mm-hmm. So for our spiritual folks watching, check this out. You heard what he said, right? What did I tell you? We're life path 4? You don't remember? Okay,
I remember you said for you was.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna do the math. 27 is 9. 3 is 4.
53.
What? Why would you do that? Why? Yeah, he's a life path 4. He's a life path 4, structured, rigid, doesn't like change, very organized. Hold on, it gets better. He is a Libra sun, but he has a Scorpio moon.
I feel like you're trying to say that in a negative way.
No. But like that ability to let go, like for like it's like this. This is how it is. This is how this is. I built this way. This is how it is. I can't build it any other way. I built it this way. And the journey is to sometimes you gotta knock it open. Sometimes you gotta kick a wall down. Maybe the wall is supposed to be straight. Maybe it's supposed to be that angle. You gotta, be able to shift, and the ability to shift is about surrender. The other thing is you have a Scorpio moon, and Scorpios, you can't cross. You can't cross a Scorpio. Scorpios take a while to let you in. So once you get in there, and you're in, like Scorpio is naturally the bowels. So when you get into the bowels with the Scorpio, you can't, if you break their trust, that's it. Like that is, and it's petty. Like you do not want to wrong a Scorpio. So he has a Scorpio moon in his 12th house, if I'm remembering his chart. In his 12th. So yeah, the grudge, holding it. Yeah. And then the other thing I've noticed in your story, because I have to do this, it's not your thing, but it's mine. 1152 adds up to 9, and 9 is the number of unpacking and releasing what no longer needs to be served. I like the fact that y'all reconciled in the energy of the 9. It comes, the 9 is right before the 1 in numerology. I like that.
Got you.
That's for y'all. We'll special, we'll sprinkle, we'll see Lowry's. Lowry's in y'all. Fast. Before we wrap up, I had the question. Oh, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word the question.
Wait, hold up, wait. I don't like the sound of that. All right, I know how I'm gonna ask this question just based on how our conversation has gone. Mm-hmm.
It's big fella, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If a big fella told you, if a big fella told you, you need to honor your ancestors, would you come to me and ask me how to get started?
I feel like I already do.
No, if like big fella said, no, you need like a sacred space to do it. Like you need to like it like with intention, regularly. Like it's like sit and commune with them on the regular, give them something to eat. Like you got big fella said do it, would you do it? And would you come to me at all about it if you got told that? I'm just curious. This is more of like a, what would you do? What would you do? Walk on that bar.
So this would be kind of deep. First of all, because I don't half listen.
I would like appreciate your honesty, because that's why I asked. Like, would you listen, and would you tell me?
So it would be one of those things. Is like we have a process. All right, you said it. I need a confirmation. I need a receipt. I need the Cash App. I need the email. All right, and I need the screenshot of that. You give me all of that. All right, now we can talk. Okay, all right, maybe. But if it was something I felt strong and was convicted about, knowing that is something that you do, like I would pick your brain a little bit. Like it's, like I said, it's one of those things where, for me personally,
And I know, like, it's not, this was just a curiosity. If you had you not having that practice and then something happens that triggers you to like investigate it.
It honestly, there's a story in, I believe it's Acts, that I feel kind of would sum up how I would feel in that type of scenario, and it would be like this: that during that story, ironically, Peter is fasting, and at some point during his fast, and just kind of the Cliff Notes version, so nobody get on me like, you didn't say it was like that, blah blah blah, whatever. Basically, guys, like, all right, boy, get up.
I love these Cliff Notes. Go ahead.
Peter's like, I ain't done yet. Guys, basically,
in my head, just it is like, you want a bumble? You want a roll?
I said, get up, boy, go eat. I'm not done yet. And God sends him a crow. And he says, get up and go eat that crow. And he says, not so, Lord. Nothing unclean has ever passed my lips. And he says, how dare you ever call anything out of blessing?
They hit it with a chest now.
And I feel like that would be a similar type of tussle for me, because this would be like, me?
Right. Are you sure you have the right person? Did you knock on the right door?
Hold up. Those voicemails out there. I got you on the line here. You got some back prayers.
I think that was good. That's cool. This is the best time ever. I'm so glad we did this like this because it was fun. This was so much fun. Did you enjoy yourself?
Of course.
You did. Did you learn anything? You did. I learned stuff too. Like, you're like a low-key Bible thumper, and I should just come to you when I want to find verses. Because
oh no, I tell people all the time, I'm a lot of people that can quote their verse. I can quote the verse. I can't tell you where the verse is. So a lot of times, like real talk, it happens all the time with family. I know I'm right with what I'm saying if we quote the verses and whatnot, but I can't quote the verse like oh, this is Matthew 22:6. No, a lot of times like, where is it at? It's in the Bible. I know it's like that. You need to read the whole thing.
It's on the page. It's on the page.
It's in there. You would need to read the whole thing.
It's on the page of words and letters. These are the black letters, not the red letters. So yeah, take it from there. Take it from there. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a friend. And I'm gonna say, oh my God.
What?
It's me. That's me. So thank you, Andre, for being open to doing this. And this went way better than I probably could have imagined. Thank you to whichever one or couple of your ancestors showed up, hang out. Make sure I think in gratitude to them. So definitely. And can you please plug your YouTube channel and your book? And one more time, and any other social media, just plug, do the thing that you do.
Well, since you were so gracious to give me a nice bowl of all green M&Ms and wild berry purple Skittles, I will definitely oblige. Thank you so much. You know, you're such a gracious hostess.
I got fruit stacks.
Are you gonna be my battle? So this is Business 101, The Fundamentals of Success. This is a book that I wrote roughly about 2 years ago. And the premise of it is to give young men and women who are trying to essentially start their career, who haven't had any type of professional guidance, just some of the basics of what they would need to come into an organization, basically kind of walk them through some pointers on how to get hired, get into a business, make a name for themselves, move up, and then the final chapter, how to value themselves. It ends with so they hopefully will be a follow-up to it coming very, very soon. But this book right here, if you have anybody that you know is an aspiring professional, somebody who's wrapping up, who, like I said, hasn't had any type of guidance before, this is a great read for them. I wrote it after being in HR at a previous job, as well as being in a group, Black Men Talk in Augusta, and speaking with a lot of young men and women who really hadn't had any type of guidance, but you could tell they were really smart, really, granddad would say smart, but they just hadn't had somebody to show them some of the unwritten rules of certain things. So the way that they were moving didn't necessarily portray their actual intelligence or capability. And the goal of this book is to help somebody present the total package. My YouTube channel is Better You Life Coaching.
I know how to work YouTube. I know how to go get a channel link. Don't do that.
Skip.
Don't do that. You challenge all my technical accuracy.
That's me. I'm not tech savvy.
A whole YouTube channel with a family answer. I'm sorry.
So it's slander. It's slander. So Better You Life Coaching, it's a channel, once again, it's about centered around health. It's focused on fiscal or money, emotional and relationships, and just health in general. So the topics kind of rotate between those 3-4 areas, and it's really what I feel like at that particular time, or what's on my heart to address. I plan to kind of branch out and touch on some social topics here and there as the channel grows. And you know, the content, the goal is to post weekly, but I am currently pursuing my master's degree, and sometimes, yeah, they don't want y'all boys to be great. It's like 10 times in a week.
So you should plug the book that needs to come out. Plug it.
So the next book of mine is actually not going to be the direct follow-up to the one that she just had. This is one-on-one. The next one is really just one of my fun passion projects. I wrote a lot of poetry over the years. Poetry has been a thing that has brought a lot of enjoyment and been my de-stressor a lot of times. And looking back, I see a lot of fire and passion in some of my stuff. I don't necessarily think of myself as a poet per se. I'm just a guy that likes poetry. She's but it's going to be called. It's going to be essentially commentary through poetry, things such as love, life, politics, and inspiration.
Thank you. And like I had to squint at you without my glasses. What's the bridge of the nose, and a person who writes poetry would be a poet. I don't know.
I mean, that's not.
I mean, that doesn't make you any less of a poet. I've read a lot of his poetry. It is absolutely beautiful, beautiful. So I'm just waiting for him to release the book so I can buy it. He's called Hostage. And I'm just, you know,
Also, yeah, just a charm,
I am.
charm.
That's what I'm feeling. So you get the book out. Do it for the people. Do it for the people. They want to feel the good poems. And there's a poem in my book that is actually a response to a poem. So it's a
Well, you jumped the gun now, didn't you?
no, I didn't, because you were actually done with yours months before I did my book. Months. Months before. I can't just wait on you. You need to hurry up. Huh.
It's not ready yet.
Thank y'all again for joining me. If you're watching the podcast, that means it's Wednesday, because I'm sure you're watching it the day that it's streamed. And then you can actually watch us, because I honestly, this is one of those ones you gotta actually watch us talk. Like, you gotta watch. So the YouTube will be up on Saturday morning. And I actually am doing another one of these with my other homeboys, so I'm really excited to like get their commentary, and just I'm excited. I've really been enjoying these stories, and the purpose is really just like Andre and I said, it's just have a dialogue, have a conversation, share. It's not what you think it is based on what you see in the movies. Like, it's just not. It's not what you think it is. We're just regular peoples trying to connect with their creator just like you. We just see it different. That's it. So thank you for listening to my podcast. If you're on YouTube, thank you for listening to my video. Make sure you like and subscribe. I don't have the animation thing, so and make sure you also subscribe to his channel. The link will be in the description box. And take it. Bye. Hey.